This is an urgent appeal from the Disasters Emergency Committee. Hundreds of thousands of people have fled their homes to escape conflict in Ukraine, leaving jobs, belongings and loved ones behind. They need shelter, food and water. You can help. To donate online, search DEC or text radio to 70150 to give £10. Thank you.
Streaming 24/7, this is Brum Radio.
Thank you for downloading this Brum Radio podcast. For more podcasts, visit brumradio.com.
You're listening to Interval Theatre, the podcast. This week, I spoke to Samantha Womack and Chris Jarrett from The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe at the Alexandra about their roles as the White Witch and Aslan, who represent good and evil in this classic story. I'm Dave Massey. I'm joined on the telephone by Samantha Womack, who is in Birmingham as the White Witch in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, which is at the Alexandra from the 8th today, which is the 8th of March, until the 12th of March. Good afternoon, Samantha. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today. I'm really excited that this production is going to be coming to Birmingham all this week as we play out this interview. How did you first approach the story of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe? Was it something that you remembered from childhood? Was it books that you read, or was it something you explored in different mediums?
I definitely read it when I was a kid. Probably read it when I was about 9 or 10, and then there was quite a famous children's TV series of it when I was a young teenager. So I remember watching, but I always remember loving the writing because I thought it was very dark. I liked the darkness in it, and I think children really respond to that. So I was really excited to get offered to play the part of the White Witch.
I think I first came to these as books, and then I did see a stage production in Birmingham when I was about 9 or 10, and I can hardly remember anything apart from the wardrobe. I don't. It's one of those ones that I was having a think about it coming. As soon as it was coming to Birmingham, I was like, right, I'm quite excited that this production is going to be here. I haven't read very much in terms of what the production is going to look like. I've seen the photos that I've been sent from the tour. Did the look of the production look different to what you'd imagined it might look like?
I was really anxious to speak to the director about that because we didn't really want it to look like a Christmas show. And this is a very clever conception of the darkness of Narnia. It's very minimal. It's an abstract time, so we're not specifying that it's a particular time in history.
Yes.
Although we are still talking about 4 children who are displaced. There were references to the war with some of the Cruel's outfits, and leather and helmets and things like that. But mainly it's just a very modern. It reminds me of Mad Max or something like that. It looks very, very modern and abstract.
The lighting seems to be quite stark in some places. Does it feel like that when you're on the stage?
It does, particularly for my bits. The White Witch, all of the stage is kind of quite dark. There's lots of blues and greys and lots of dry ice. And she actually arrives, instead of a traditional kind of sleigh, she's on it looks almost like a crane, like a kind of jib that she stands on. And it looks like she's kind of floating above the air. And I get to fly at the end of Act 1 as well, which is amazing.
There are posters all around the theatre at the moment ahead of your arrival. They had a mural that they painted of Aslan outside of the theatre, and that's been there since Christmas.
I heard about that.
Is it weird to walk around towns and see your face on posters heralding your arrival?
It's very weird, but it's also because my partner is touring as well, and he's in Birmingham at the moment doing Fatal Attraction, and I arrive next week. So we keep seeing each other's posters. We see more of each other's posters than we do of the actual person, so that's quite funny. It always feels weird seeing your your face and your partner's face next to each other. That's strange.
I actually saw Fatal Attraction last night.
Oh, how was it?
I reviewed it last night. I really enjoyed it. I didn't know the film, and it was really quite. I knew the story, but because it was really notorious. When I was a kid, it was considered a naughty story. So I'd never seen it when I was a kid, but I really enjoyed seeing it, and it's quite a dark it made me feel quite uncomfortable in parts because it's quite a dark story.
Yeah, it is. So it's we're both doing dark stories in different ways,
Wow.
but we keep seeing each other on posters, which is funny.
That's brilliant. I imagine that's really encouraging, though, because it really says to me that theatre's back around. I previously saw you in Birmingham for The Addams Family, which I checked and is actually 5 years ago. I was very surprised when I looked at how long ago it was.
Is it really?
Yeah, it looked like it was the end of 2017, 2018. I think it was.
I didn't realise it was that long ago.
And when it came round, I didn't get to review. I didn't get to review it on your tour. One of my colleagues wrote the review for it, but I really loved your performance as Morticia in that production. So thank you for giving us your Morticia.
Oh, thank you.
It was very appreciated. When you're doing this role, you get to sweep in and out of the stage quite a lot. How do you get into that role when you're sort of approaching it?
I mean, always with something where there's a big costume, it always helps. So just actually the kind of the witch's wig being put on and kind of spear-like crown, paling down my skin, and then a huge long fur coat, that really changes how you move and feel. And the music and the lighting, the minute you kind of have all of that set for you, it kind of puts you in the zone, really, which is great.
As a child, when I was watching TV, I was of the age where I saw the programme Rent-A-Ghost. And Rent-A-Ghost used to have Nadia Popoff in it, and it was Sue Nichols. And then in the evenings, Sue Nichols would be in Coronation Street. And as a child, I would really not cope with the idea that an actor was able to go into other performances or be other characters. You play two characters because you're playing Mrs. Macready in this production as well as the White Witch in it. Do you think certain children might understand that you're playing different characters? Do you see those characters as being different characters? And
yeah, I mean, they're both there to scare and they're both there to set a tone, and the tone should be quite foreboding. You should feel as if you've kind of, when the White Witch appears, as if you've somehow got a sense of her beforehand, but it shouldn't be clear that it's Mrs. Macready. In fact, a lot of people don't know it's me playing the part because I've got a very different wig and it's got a thick Scottish accent. So it should have a sense of foreboding, but it shouldn't be obvious.
They might not necessarily notice if they're younger children in particular.
No. Exactly.
My favourite scene in this production, in the story of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, is the Turkish Delight scene. And I always, growing up in Birmingham and having Cadbury's in our city and it being something that's like inherent in our city culture, that was always the scene that I really enjoyed as a child, where they were getting treats and the treats were taking Edmund over to the dark side. As an adult, I always find the scenes later on at the stone table and those sorts of scenes to be the ones that I'm always most interested in. Was there any particular ones that you liked as a child that you're seeing as an adult and you're thinking, great, I'm seeing this on stage now?
Yeah, interestingly, I always like the Turkish Delights, and I like watching how the witch kind of changed her tactic and changed her voice when she was trying to seduce Edmund into the darkness. And so that kind of strange mix of very, very terrifying and then sickly sweet. And I thought that was a very clever choice of sweet to give him, and that he chooses because it's heavily feminine and perfumed. Obviously he's missing his mother figure, so there's a kind of femininity to that, but it's also kind of quite sickly. So I think that's just again a typical C.S. Lewis perfect choice for the kind of sweet that she provides for him. It's kind of very feminine but very sickly sweet.
One of my friends my friend that I'm bringing to see this production with me next week, she's an ex-Jehovah's Witness. And she wasn't. I was trying to explain to her about the Christianity overtones within The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. Yeah. Was that something that you became aware of when you were younger, or was it something that you discovered was there?
I understood when I was younger that there were theology questions in it, so kind of good and bad, light and dark, living and dying. I understood that they were very profound subject matters. And then later on, I started to understand C.S. Lewis's relationship with religion, Christianity, and also, his relationship with Tolkien, who, was also very, very religious. And so theology was a big presence in the book. And I think that's I think that's a really good thing, and I think it's not to be shied away from.
I found it really fascinating, and as I say, I did try and explain a little to her, and I'm sure she's going to sit there and say, "What do you mean? What's going on here?" When after this production ends in May, have you been able to announce what production you might be going into next? Is that something that is out there in the public?
No, at the moment I'm going to. So this has been quite a long tour. So I'm going to take a little bit of time. I need to relocate. My partner and I just bought a property in Valencia, so we're going out there to relocate.
Wow.
And that will take us a couple of months, and then hopefully maybe start thinking about going back to work at the end of the year. But it's always too much to think about when you're in the middle of doing something.
Oh, absolutely, I can imagine.
Unless your brain just can't cope with it, really.
Well, I hope you enjoy your time in Glasgow, and welcome to Birmingham when you're in Birmingham as well. I'm sure it'll be a very fun week for you in Birmingham. This production is one of the very few that is moved to 7 p.m. when in general they all seem to be at 7:30. Does that help you get into the rest of your evening a little bit as well?
I mean, it does and it doesn't. By the time we finished at kind of 9:30, we're all pretty tired. We're doing a lot of matinees at the moment. We've kind of been very lucky where we've been selling out in most venues, so they've added extra matinees.
Oh, yes.
So we're all pretty tired by 9:30. So, no, most of us just get straight back home to bed and prepare for the next day.
Samantha, thank you so much for chatting to us about this today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You're listening to Interval Theatre, the podcast. I'm joined on the telephone by Chris Jarrett, who is playing Aslan in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, which is at the Alexandra from the 8th to the 12th of March, and it's on tour across the UK until the 7th of May. Good afternoon, Chris. How are you doing today?
Really well, thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me on your show, your double-length show.
As we're broadcasting this out, you'll have arrived in Birmingham as part of the UK tour. You're just in Glasgow at the moment, doing the production this week. How's the tour being received in Glasgow?
It's going down really well. It's a real fun family show it's full of spectacle. So it's a lot of the work's done for us before we arrive, and it's been a great night out. It's nice to see the theatres full again. I mean, I haven't toured around the country since the pandemic. We've been working in London for a few months, and everywhere's struggling. So it's nice to see that spring is coming, not only in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, but in the British theatre world too.
Now, this particular production, I've seen photos of it, but I haven't read very much apart from that. I've deliberately avoided seeing things until the point that I'm in the theatre. On the photographs that I see, you are Aslan in front of Aslan, if that makes sense. Is that how would you describe the way that the character is portrayed?
Yeah, there might well be a moment where I'll be in front of him, or to his side, or underneath him. We've tried to devise a way where puppet and human can coexist in a sort of exciting physical way. Mm-hmm. So that there'll be it's worth mentioning that Aslan is both a 6-foot puppet, which is manned by 3 excellent puppeteers, alongside myself, who is taking on the sort of humanity, the regal humanity of the character.
And this is the thing about Aslan as well, is that he is this lion that is more than a lion to a lot of audiences. Do you think that showing Aslan in this way is going to exceed the audience's expectations?
Well, I'm not sure what their expectations are, but there's great clues in the text. When we're reading C.S. Lewis's book, there's a lot of indicators as to who Aslan is. Lucy asks, is he safe? To which Mr. Tumnus responds, no, he's not safe, he's wild. But he's full of compassion and love. You know, there's the positive qualities in him are really evident from the off. But nonetheless, he's a ferocious lion that can pounce at any minute. So it's a great dichotomy to play with, having the puppet and myself achieving moments of real aggression, and then trying to find cool and stillness in that, either simultaneously or opposing each other at moments. So there's a lot of play, and it was a lot of fun sort of in rehearsals.
What sort of age were you when you first were aware of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe?
I think we've always been aware of it, but I confess that I didn't read it as a child. I wasn't a big reader, and my fantasy world took me down a sci-fi direction, so I was turned on by a good friend of mine, Reese, to the Dark Tower series, Stephen King. I really liked J.R. Tolkien when I was a kid, who was a friend of C.S. Lewis by all accounts.
Yes.
So I really liked that world, but this tale sort of eluded me until very recently. So over the last year, I suppose, I've been sort of working through the backlog of Narnia.
And have you seen other productions of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe yourself?
I've never seen a production, and I've never seen the BBC. I've not seen any of the televised or the filmed versions. So no, I was a real novice. Danny Cookson put this production together, and it's a fascinating beast, because this largely different creative team have devised this show back in 2016 or 2017, I believe, and now we have an almost entirely new creative team sort of pulling it in a different direction. So you've got these two sort of heads of the pinnacle, I suppose, in Stanley Cookson and Michael Fenterman, and their extended creative team, be it through movement, music, puppetry, who are all sort of using each other's fantastic ideas and wrestling with each other a little bit. So it's a real push and pull, I'd imagine, for creatively speaking.
The arrival of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and Aslan in particular, was heralded outside of the Alexandra Theatre. There's, as I was saying to Samantha earlier, there's a huge mural that is outside of the building that you can go and stand next to, like a sort of I think it's about 8 foot tall mural that has Aslan on it. Do you think it's exciting seeing theatre's presence back in the community, and the fact that we can just go and see these touring productions at the moment?
Oh yeah, I think it's vital. I mean, we've all been across the country, all been a little lost for some time now. So that sense of community and belonging, I guess, which is small. It's the sort of minutiae. We're in a very focused thing being in theatre, but sort of reaches out to a huge demographic of people and has such a sort of profound impact, regardless of the genre, regardless of the style of theatre you're seeing. Just the fact that is there is hugely helpful and inspirational to many. So it's, of course, and this being aimed at families, younger children. We've had a lot of school groups in. That's nothing really trumps that for us, and seeing the joy that 500 adolescents can have from coming to the theatre, hearing them leave the theatre sort of full of energy. It's of course that's having a really good impact. It certainly did on me when I was a child. It was put on my pull into wanting to work in the industry too.
This production has sold so well that they've added extra matinees, and I know the Birmingham extra matinee isn't the only extra matinee that's been added to the show. How does it feel that it's sold that well that they're having to put on more performances?
Oh yeah, that's always a lovely thing to hear, that we're doing our bit to keep the show running, and that it's doing very well. It's a huge weight off all departments, I'm sure. Not so much us. We're sort of the sheep that follow the show where it needs to be, but I'm sure for the producers and the creative team, they're really happy to see lots of bums on seats.
You were previously in Birmingham with the tour for Amelie, I believe.
Yeah, same theatre indeed.
Yeah.
Years ago.
How have you got any memories of being in Birmingham? What's it like coming to all these theatres around the UK?
Yes, I do have lots of memories from various visits to Birmingham that I adore. I'm from Swansea, so it's I've always seen it as a perfect intermediary gap between wherever I am in the country. It's great. I've had many fantastic weeks, be it through Amelie or through a knee-high show 2 years before that. And it's a treat. I mean, it's always fleeting, the weeks are so, as I'm sure you're aware, the weeks are so full, especially when extra shows are added, that we arrive, the crew indeed have been there for 24 hours before us getting the set in. That's a huge task. There's very little respite. So it's we're not on a tour bus, but it does very much feel like that mentality of hopping from one city to another. There's not much chance to bed in. So it's almost like a dream. We sort of find ourselves a month later going, hang on, let's retrace our steps, because we haven't had a chance to breathe, really. especially now, I mean, no more so. I think any company that's touring around the country is battling with a lot more obstacles than perhaps we had to battle 3 years ago. So everybody has to be really on their toes, front-footed, with hawk eyes, which many of our company members certainly have, which is a great asset.
Do you have a favourite moment that you like to watch other people do while you're waiting in the wings for you to go on stage yourself during this production?
It's a really good question, but unfortunately, Michael Finterman as a director is a tyrant in the best possible sense. He doesn't give anybody a breathing moment. You're lucky if you can get a swig of water in the 2 hours. So there's very few opportunities because he loves, and it's great. We're all on board because what he wants is to create this sort of real full sense of ensemble. Everybody's energy pouring into the action, and the way we achieve that is by sort of being present and available.
Oh wow!
Times.
Oh, that's smart.
Really,
yeah,
it's really engaging. You know, from the moment that curtain goes up at the start of the show, I'd say for all 25 of us, I think it's just 2 hours of running. Even backstage, the backstage track, if you had set up a camera in the wings or in our wardrobe area, it's chaos. It's not chaos, it's organised chaos. We know exactly what we're doing, and it's fine art now. So we have to renegotiate every week with local crew and local staff at the theatres. So the Tuesday we arrive, we're sort of still tweaking, still working things. There might be some lights and sound. Every theatre's different, so it's a real movable feast.
And for young people coming to see this production, it might be their first ever theatre experience. What would you say to those people coming along? What should they look out for?
Everything. Just, I would implore you, I'm really encouraged. I don't think I felt that this was accessible to me as a kid to be sort of open to receive without judgment, without criticism. And I think kids are really good at it today. Coming and just observing, taking in, being open to be surprised and thrilled and scared, you know, embrace what the theatre has to offer you. There's a lot of people's time and work have gone into sort of crafting this piece. So invest. Well, you know, at the Aslan puppet, I'll give you a little taster. He's missing his back legs. And that's not a budget constraint.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's not what I've been told. That's more of an artistic choice, because what we require as theatre makers is for the audience to bring their imagination to it, because that's so much more rewarding than being sort of spoon-fed a story. That's clear. None of us want that, and we shouldn't think that kids need that. We demand of any age audience member for their imagination, for their focus, for their concentration to sort of really invest in the story. So that is to be engaged, to listen, to sort of soak it up. I don't think they need to hear it from me, though. I think they're just instinctively very good at that. It's maybe people my age that would struggle more.
Fantastic. I think I'm really excited to come and see this production at the Alexandra. I was very young when I first saw The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe on stage, and it was in central Birmingham that I saw it, and I think I saw one of the Narnia books at the Hippodrome and one of the Narnia books at the Alexandra, and I just remember badgering my family to take me, and I'm sure it was probably quite expensive at the time, but I was so thrilled to be able to go and see it. So that's one of the reasons I'm very much looking forward to seeing this.
And look how you're living your life now. That obviously had a big impact as well. And,
my mother will tell you that she's responsible for me being so excited about theatre and passionate about it.
Well done, Mum.
And it's a brilliant opportunity just to be able to go out there and review all these things. Is just such a fantastic thing to do, and just share my excitement as well. And to be able to pick and choose like this, I saw that Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe was on this list for this season probably about 6 months ago, and I was like, right, I am determined to move everything to make sure I'm going to be free on the night that you guys come to Birmingham to come and see this. So it's a wonderful opportunity to do that as well. You can see this production of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe at the Alexandra from today as we broadcast this interview, which is the 8th of March, and it's here until the 12th of March, and the tour is on until the 7th of May. You can get tickets at atgtickets.com. Just search Alexandra Theatre and then The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and then you go to lionwitchonstage.com and you'll find more details of the production there as well. Chris, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to me about this today.
It's a pleasure, Dave. Thanks. Your excitement is palpable. We can't wait to play for you next week.
Oh,
Tonight.
It will be. Yeah, it will be tonight. After I've pressed pause on this today, it will be tonight. And I'm just, as I say, really thrilled to be doing that. Have a fantastic week in Birmingham, and thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us.
Thanks again, Dave. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for listening to this Brum Radio podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us on your podcast app.